I figured while it's still relatively quiet out with my kids, I would just try and answer a question that can go along with some cringe-worthy videos and some old ones too. What were the habits I had that kept me effortlessly lean throughout my life? So, between pregnancies and a little bit before pregnancy, I've had times in my life where I've just felt like I was effortlessly lean, and sometimes surprisingly, like I had no idea I was even lean until I, at one point, like tapped my stomach because I was trying to demonstrate something as a coach, and I'm like, "Whew, that's really lean." But I figured I would go over some of the things that I felt were similar throughout all my life, since there were a lot of times where I had very different lifestyles. So I've had a lot of different things I've had going on in my life, whether I was a mom or not, different jobs, different locations. And every time I was lean in all these different times of my life, I did notice some similarities in certain habits I had whenever I was lean. So one of those was I didn't sit much. One of the things that it reminded me of is boot camp. I was in the military, and boot camp, you'd think it was really hard, and people might make fun of it because I was Air Force, so it wasn't that strenuous. Keep in mind, I prepared myself physically for it too. But there was a lot of just standing. I feel like they wanted to torture you with the idea of never sitting, but we didn't sit much. And any other time I've been lean, I just noticed I didn't do a lot of sitting. I didn't have a desk job, or I was a coach and I was just standing all day. And while it's not strenuous exercise, I think everybody has this idea that exercise has to be strenuous. As long as you're just not sitting on your butt all day, it seems that you will obviously burn calories through non-exercise activity thermogenesis, so NEAT. And it's surprising how many calories you burn just not sitting. So that's one thing I did. And they do say that sitting's the new smoking, right? But then you've got those people that will get the standing desks, and I had one of those when I had a desk job, and I've had a lot of times in my life I had a desk job. However, it's the idea of moving all day. Humans are meant to move gently, slowly, easily. We're not supposed to do anything terribly strenuous, and it shows when people are getting sick sitting all the time, or they're hurting themselves doing extreme exercise. So we want to be right in the middle. The other thing, I did just mention no extremes. I didn't have any extremes. Even when I was a CrossFit gym owner, or when I was in the military, there were those times I was not so extreme, and I felt like I was leaner for it. So that means I'm walking all the time rather than running. And I used to run a ton. It just left me puffy and inflamed all the time. And I don't feel that that was very beneficial to my body or my joints. So anytime I've had the best success is when I was a walker, which is why I walk still today. Let's see. And it's also when I owned a CrossFit gym. You would think that a CrossFit gym owner is probably doing a ton of CrossFit workouts, but for me as a new mom and a CrossFit gym owner, I only got to work out and do really heavy lifting maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and that was enough, and that wasn't too bad. You had plenty of time to recover, you weren't injuring yourself. So I still think the magical formula is walking and doing resistance training 2 to 3 times a week, especially if you're a busy parent. That is the best combination of making sure you don't stress your body out. I also ate 3 big meals a day. Now, just because I'm not doing that currently with my breakfast right now in my life doesn't mean that this strategy doesn't work. 3 big meals means I was eating abundantly of plant foods, and I felt very stuffed every single time. And then I would just go on for the rest of the day, probably because I was too busy to eat and I just didn't pack anything else. So then I just wouldn't eat anything else. I wouldn't snack. I just had my meals, and that was it. If I did snack, it was very rare, and it was outside of my normal routine. That's not to say I didn't have those treats here or there. So just because I eat this plant-based diet predominantly Doesn't mean I didn't have a handful of Skittles at the end of the night. It was only a little bit. It wasn't, a big giant package of it. And it also doesn't mean I didn't have some overt fats in my diet too. Even today, I still incorporate overt fats because they're just tasty. It just tastes good. And maybe there's something to it. Maybe they're also healthy as well. Maybe having that little bit of calorie dense food keeps me from doing anything else like going off the rails binge eating because I didn't eat enough for the day. I also kept very busy. So you're seeing some of those posts I've been putting online where I'm not snacking all day because I'm actually just busy living life. I'm not bored. I'm not bored by, I'm not hanging around by my kitchen just thinking about food all day because one, I'm well fed, and two, I've got things to do. I am a busy parent, but you don't have to be a busy parent in order to be busy, because a lot of people like to use that as an excuse to actually just not eat well at all. So what I mean by staying busy is I might be doing chores, just doing household work in general. Working is actually a great way to just stay busy, but work was what kept me busy a lot of the time. And I also love crafting. I like drawing. I like crocheting. I like doing all sorts of crafty things. A lot of people wonder how you have time for it. Well, you could be doing that instead of scrolling. You could be doing that instead of snacking. So I'm not saying I'm perfect with any of this. I've had my ups and downs throughout life, but these are some of the things or the habits I've noticed where I had the most success in staying lean and effortlessly lean. So let me know if you have any tips yourself, and I would love to hear what you have to share below. Thanks.